I'm going to have to start on doubles when I'm playing in my local pub. Do I automatically go for the double 20 because it's the highest scoring double?
Well, we can touch on this before I actually throw a dart at the board. 95% of dart leagues in the whole of Great Britain start on a double and finish on a double. Because although it's an individual game, it's a team game. Whereas you've got 7, 9 or 5 players in a team that play just one leg, 301, 101. So to make it so that they've got a reasonable chance, they put an handicap on it of a double start. We don't use it on TV simply because if one fella didn't get off, it wouldn't be worth showing. Also, television never know how long a game's going to run, and they need to know approximately how long a match is going to take. Now, I suggest that every dart player who's starting to play darts uses a double start, double finish. That's because if he gets very good at treble 20, he's only going to get one shot at his double at the end. So he's not getting any practice whatsoever at doubles. So what he needs to do is say, double start, double finish, every time. Some parts of the country, you still spin a little disc on a wall, and if it stops on 13, that's the one you get off on. You have to. No other double will do. They still use that in many, many places.
Really?
They do, yes. But let's assume we're a right-handed dart player like I am. If you throw a double top, and you're a learner, and you get it first dart, then great, you've done well. But if you have half an hour throwing at double top, I don't think you'll get it many times 1 out of 3. Or even 1 out of 6 for a beginner.
Probably more with me.
So the ideal thing is if you're a right-hander, why not use the right-hand side of the board? We've got double 13 is an ideal double. If it goes high, it's a chance it'll go in double 4. You've not thrown at it, but then again, why shouldn't you accept it? If it falls low, it'll go in double 6, double 10. Left-hander, double 14. When you get good, then maybe you can move on to double top if you like. Personally, I'd always stick with a side double to start. The only reason that people use double top is it's the biggest number, it's 40. But if you don't get off with 3 darts, you've got to share 3 into 40 plus the next 3 you're throwing. It's far easier to get off first or second shot.
Again, playing the percentages.
Play the percentages, that's right. Let's just have a shot at the right-hand side of the board, putting everything into what we've talked about, and we're going to throw at double 13. If it goes in double 4, then great, I'll accept it. That's 8 and it's away. There we go, Phil.
Fine.
We've got one. But if that had been double top, thrown at double top, I may have been there 6 darts. I got 1 out of 3, it was the last one.
And your opponent may be away well in front of you by getting a double 4.
That's right. But we're not using the theory that you go for the biggest number. We're using the theory that by throwing at this side of the board, it can go into any of them numbers. This doesn't apply to the treble, simply because when you're scoring, you throw at 20, because 20 is still a good score with a single dart. So if you throw at treble 20 and it drops into 20, then you accept that 20. 60 is not a bad shot with 3 darts. If you're lucky and it goes in, as you get better, it'll not be luck, it'll be because of the practice you've put into it. So there's really, I'd say, start on this side if you're right, that side if you're left-handed, but don't forget to practice on these, because you need them when it comes to the finish. You may not work everything into 32 or double 20. It may work into a double 3. And while I think about that, we've got a good illustration of a double 3, which we've got on a clip now, which I'd like to show you, and also one where nerves comes into it, which we've not touched on. This was during the 1977 British match play against Tony Brown in the final. And the whole competition was for a meagre then sum of £1,000, which now, when you see the £10,000 prizes around, makes it a little bit insignificant. But the pressure on getting double 3 was great.
John Lowe now needs 138 to finish, and it's getting down towards the climax. 60 scored. He can go 318s or 314s now. We'll leave him a double. 318s, he wants 2 12s. 2 12s. And he has just missed. And what a try from John Lowe. What a finish that would have been. 123. Can Brown go out with a firework display? That's a single 19. He wants treble 18. Didn't get it. And he only scored 33, 39 there. And so John Lowe looking for 2 threes now for the title. Bottom of the board, but top of the tournament. John Lowe wins it. The British match play title is his. 17 darts from that last leg. An absolutely riveting, absorbing game of darts. John Lowe scoring 3 180s there. A really worthy champion. John Lowe, the England captain, confirming his world ranking #1 in what has been a really scintillating series.
Yes, as you say, John, a tremendous shot under a lot of pressure, but I'm sure that a lot of players wouldn't choose to go on a double three, especially with 3 darts in your hand.
Well, the game, I didn't choose double three either. It just happened that I got to it. But at least I'm prepared to have a go at it. You know, I think, well, there it is. It's on the board. It's at the bottom. It's the hardest one to hit. In most people's book, double three is the hardest one. If you're frightened of it and you miss it and throw inside, you've got 2 darts, one to get 1 and one to get double 1. If you go outside, you've got the next 2 at 3. If one goes into the big 3, then you might as well throw the 3rd one away. You can't do anything with it, particularly in the position that we saw there that Tony Brown was in. He was on a finish. So it's determination, confidence that you can get it. The only way you're going to have that confidence is to practice on them. Use these doubles regular. You may never use them in a match. You may never use treble 5 in a match. Treble 7 very rarely comes into a game. You don't need them. But they're not put there for nothing. You will eventually arrive on them when you don't want to play on them, and if you can hit them, or have got confidence you can hit them, practice on them, and you're going to make it right. I suggest a good way to practice for a beginner or somebody who thinks that he's a really tip-top champion and only needs treble 20 anymore, double 16 and double top, and that's his whole
Aspect of his game, I
his
suppose.
complete aspect of what he thinks is darts. He's wrong. Why not use the lot? Start on double 1, double 7 and bullseye, double 6, double 11, bullseye. Keep using them, the opposite doubles and bull. Try and space them apart. Use the total width of the board. I'm
Now,
sure then you get into the game.
I've been dying to ask you this question about the bullseye because it is seemingly so important, but on a major championship game with treble 20, when I'm playing, I'm going for the treble 20 all the time. How important is the bullseye in the context of a game?
Well, over the last few years, and I say few years because a while back bull was never used. When I first went to America in '76, they call it a cork, and they couldn't understand on TV why I was throwing at treble 20. Why didn't he throw at the middle of the board? Surely that's the hardest bit. Why doesn't he throw at the cork, as they call it? So we thought, well, no, they're silly. I mean, why this little bit here is not usually in the game. Then all of a sudden we had people coming along and saying 82. There's an outshot. Why not go for bullseye and double 16? Never been heard of. Always treble 14 and double top. Some people say, why go for a bull as a finish? It's 50. They say, why don't you go 10 or double top, 18, double 16? And you've got 3 darts in the end. But a lot of people say, no, the bullseye's 50. Why not throw 1 dart at it? You've got, if you miss, you've got 1 to leave a double and 1 to throw at a double. So you've had 2 darts. Other people say, well, no, big 10's a lot better. Throw big 10, leave double top. You've still only had 2 darts at the double. If it falls in 15, and then you've got to sort of rip 35 then, so you've got to go for a big 3 and hope you get that to leave 1 dart at the double. So the bull is becoming more and more part of the game. In fact, on a lot of dartboards, you'll find out after a year it's worn out. The bull's worn out now before the treble 20. We see a good instance now where a lot of TV companies and competition organisers are wanting to see different games round the board on doubles. Shanghai, a game what is very simple to play. It's the double, the triple and the single. If you get it, you've got Shanghai. Then they play halve it, where you set off with a score. If you don't get the proper numbers, you halve the score. And then there's one called cricket, which most people know how to play. You have 11 wickets, which are 11 bulls. And you have to score all 11 while get them off or get them out before the other fella's got as many as he can on scoring. One typical example of the bullseye was in such a game in the Tetley Darts Athlon on Leeds. And this is the most interesting thing about bullseye we'll ever see, the best bullseye throwing, in my opinion, when the very first 3 bullseyes was ever seen on television. We can show you a little piece from the film, and don't just watch the first 3, watch what happens after it.
Right, we'll do that.